You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. A secure baseline can be thought of as the approved, known good configuration for a system or service. It defines what settings, patches, and features should be present to ensure a device is operating in a secure and predictable state. Instead of allowing every system administrator or business unit to configure machines however they see fit, a baseline establishes consistency and accountability. In practice, this might mean that all Windows servers in an organization have the same password policies, logging configurations, and firewall rules. By setting a secure baseline, organizations create a common foundation that is both defensible and easier to maintain over time. The purpose of establishing baselines extends far beyond convenience. They ensure consistency, reduce the attack surface, and help prove compliance with internal and external requirements. Consistency means that servers deployed in New York look and behave the same as those deployed in London, which makes troubleshooting and monitoring more straightforward. Reducing the attack surface is achieved by disabling unnecessary services and tightening default permissions, leaving fewer avenues for attackers. From a compliance perspective, auditors are far more comfortable when organizations can demonstrate that all systems follow documented approved configurations rather than ad hoc settings applied over years. Baselines are not invented from scratch but are derived from authoritative sources. Vendor guides often provide recommended configurations, such as Microsoft's security baselines for Windows systems. Hardening benchmarks from organizations like the Center for Internet Security (CIS) or DISA STIGs, Security Technical Implementation Guides, are widely used to create practical standards. Risk assessments also shape baselines, ensuring they account for an organization's unique threats and regulatory environment. For example, a financial institution may adopt CIS benchmarks, but also include custom settings for encryption and transaction logging tailored to its business. The components of a baseline cover a wide spectrum of system settings. These may include which services are enabled, what default accounts exist, and the strength of password and lockout policies. They also define patch levels, antivirus or EDR configurations, firewall rules, and audit logging parameters. A baseline for a Linux web server, for example, might specify that SSH root login is disabled, only certain ports are open, and automatic security updates are enabled. Each component contributes to minimizing risk by ensuring all systems are hardened against common attack vectors. Configuration management tools play a critical role in enforcing baselines at scale. Platforms like Ansible, Puppet, or Microsoft Intune allow administrators to define desired states and then automatically apply them across hundreds or thousands of systems. This transforms baseline management from a manual, error-prone task into a controlled, repeatable process. For instance, if the organization requires all laptops to enforce disk encryption, configuration management can deploy and verify the setting without depending on each administrator to apply it individually. Automation makes secure baselines both scalable and sustainable. Even with strong baselines, systems inevitably experience small deviations from the approved configuration caused by manual changes, software updates, or unforeseen circumstances. Drift detection tools continuously monitor systems to identify when deviations occur, and remediation processes bring them back into compliance. For example, if a firewall rule is manually altered to allow broader access, the monitoring system flags it and restores the correct rule. Drift detection ensures that the fidelity of the baseline is maintained, preventing insecure exceptions from becoming permanent vulnerabilities. Not every deviation is malicious or accidental, however. Sometimes business needs require systems to diverge from established baselines, such as enabling a specific service to support a legacy application. In such cases, organizations need formal exception processes. These processes document why the deviation is necessary, who approved it, and when it will be reviewed for retirement. This ensures accountability, and that temporary deviations do not become long-term risks. Exceptions are managed, not ignored, and often paired with compensating controls to mitigate any additional risk introduced. Versioning and provenance are important aspects of baseline management, ensuring that organizations can track changes over time. Just as software has versions, baselines should have identifiable releases, with documentation explaining what changed, who approved it, and why. Provenance confirms that baselines originate from authoritative sources and have been formally approved. This creates an audit trail that both security teams and compliance auditors can rely on. For instance, if a patching policy was changed 6 months ago, versioning allows investigators to see exactly when and under what circumstances it occurred. Measuring adherence to baselines provides insight into the effectiveness of system management. Compliance scoring tools report what percentage of assets fully match the baseline and highlight deviation trends. Coverage metrics indicate whether all known assets are being monitored for compliance. For example, a dashboard may show that 92% of servers are baseline compliant, but deviations are concentrated in a particular business unit. Such measurements transform baselines from static documents into active management frameworks that can be continuously evaluated and improved. At the heart of every secure baseline lies the principle of minimizing features and disabling unnecessary services. The more code and functions a system runs, the larger the attack surface. By disabling unused accounts, shutting down services that are not needed, and removing extraneous software, organizations significantly reduce opportunities for attackers. For instance, disabling legacy protocols like SMBv1 in Windows environments eliminates entire classes of vulnerabilities. Simplicity in configuration becomes a security benefit, not just an operational one. Secure default posture is especially important for new deployments. Systems should come online with the baseline already applied, rather than requiring extensive manual hardening after the fact. This approach prevents the window of exposure that exists when a system is online but not yet secured. Cloud infrastructure provides a good example. By using hardened templates or golden images, new virtual machines inherit secure settings immediately, rather than relying on technicians to configure them later. This practice ensures that even rapid scaling maintains consistent levels of security. Ultimately, secure baselines simplify management and strengthen security predictably. They provide a map of what good looks like and tools to keep systems aligned with that vision. Instead of each administrator improvising, organizations gain a unified approach that reduces complexity, enforces standards, and defends against both mistakes and malicious activity. When applied consistently, secure baselines turn system management into a proactive discipline, ensuring that the environment is hardened, measurable, and resilient against evolving threats. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Automated remediation workflows are the natural extension of drift detection and baseline monitoring. Instead of relying on administrators to manually review and fix deviations, automation tools can reconcile non-compliant settings back to the approved baseline. For example, if a Windows server is discovered with remote desktop access enabled when the baseline requires it to be disabled, an automated workflow can instantly correct the setting. This not only speeds resolution, but also reduces human error, ensuring consistency across thousands of systems. In modern environments where changes occur constantly, automated remediation is the only way to keep pace. Immutable infrastructure patterns take this concept further by reducing the opportunity for drift altogether. Rather than fixing systems in place, immutable infrastructure replaces them entirely with fresh, baseline-compliant instances. Cloud platforms make this approach practical. Instead of patching or tweaking a virtual machine, a new instance is spun up from a hardened golden image, and the old one is discarded. This ensures drift cannot accumulate and that every deployment begins in a known, secure state. By embracing immutability, organizations trade the complexity of in-place fixes for the predictability of replacement. Controlling who can modify baselines is as important as the baselines themselves. Role-based access ensures that only authorized individuals can propose, approve, or implement changes. Controlled approval flows further strengthen the process by requiring multiple reviewers before updates are accepted. For instance, a new firewall rule added to the baseline may require sign-off from both security and operations teams. These checks prevent unauthorized or hasty modifications and maintain confidence that baselines represent thoughtful, vetted security posture rather than ad hoc adjustments. Baselines cannot be managed in isolation. They must integrate with patch management and vulnerability programs. A secure baseline might specify required patch levels, while vulnerability scanners identify where systems fall short. By linking these processes, organizations ensure that baseline governance evolves as new vulnerabilities emerge. For example, when a critical zero-day patch is released, baseline documentation can be updated, and configuration tools can enforce it across the fleet. Integration ensures that baselines remain living documents tied to current risk conditions, rather than static artifacts that quickly grow outdated. Registry and inventory linkage ensures baselines are applied to the right assets. An organization cannot enforce controls on systems it does not know exist. By tying baselines to an accurate asset registry, administrators ensure that every known server, laptop, or application is covered. Inventories may also categorize assets by type, allowing specialized baselines, such as stricter policies for domain controllers versus user laptops. Without this linkage, baselines risk becoming theoretical, applying to paper systems rather than the real and often messy set of deployed assets. Testing baselines in staging environments is essential before rolling them out to production. Baselines often introduce changes to services, permissions, or configurations, and even well-intentioned updates can break applications. A bank deploying a stricter TLS configuration as part of its baseline might discover that legacy systems fail to connect. Testing and staging identifies these issues early, allowing compensating controls or phased rollouts. Staging reduces the risk that baseline enforcement causes business disruption, balancing security improvement with operational continuity. Telemetry and alerting for critical baseline deviations provide an additional layer of defense. Not all drift is accidental. Sometimes attackers deliberately modify settings to weaken defenses, disable logging, or open backdoors. By treating certain deviations as high-priority security events, organizations can detect intrusions in progress. For example, if an attacker attempts to disable endpoint protection, deviation alerts can trigger incident response workflows. In this way, baselines serve not only as management tools but also as real-time security tripwires. Clear documentation and runbooks guide administrators in applying, updating, and retiring baselines. Documentation ensures consistency, while runbooks provide step-by-step procedures during enforcement campaigns. For example, a runbook might describe the process of applying a new Linux hardening standard across all production servers, including prerequisites, rollback plans, and validation steps. Documentation also creates continuity across teams, ensuring that institutional knowledge is preserved when staff change. Without runbooks, baseline management risks devolving into inconsistent, error-prone practice. Periodic reviews are critical to keep baselines aligned with both evolving threats and changing business needs. A configuration that was secure 2 years ago may be inadequate against today's adversaries, while new business requirements may demand exceptions. Regular reviews, often quarterly or semi-annually, ensure baselines remain relevant. For instance, when multi-factor authentication becomes mandatory due to regulatory shifts, review cycles ensure it is incorporated into all applicable baseline policies. Reviews transform baselines from static compliance artifacts into adaptive, responsive security frameworks. Exceptions tracking is a necessary reality of system management. Some deviations will be justified, but they must be documented, approved, and monitored. Compensating controls can help mitigate risks during temporary deviations, such as increasing monitoring on a server that must run an unsupported service. By tracking exceptions centrally, organizations prevent shadow IT from undermining security and ensure that deviations are reviewed for eventual closure. Exceptions should always have expiration dates, preventing temporary fixes from becoming permanent liabilities. Audit evidence is another byproduct of disciplined baseline management. Compliance reviews often require organizations to demonstrate that secure configurations are enforced across systems. Automated reporting tools can show baseline adherence, highlight exceptions, and document remediation timelines. For example, during a PCI DSS audit, evidence might demonstrate that all cardholder data systems enforce encryption settings as defined in the baseline. Providing auditors with structured evidence reduces friction and demonstrates maturity, turning baseline management into a compliance advantage. In the end, disciplined baseline and system management reduce unplanned variance and close security gaps before they are exploited. By defining good, automating enforcement, tracking deviations, and reviewing regularly, organizations turn system configuration into a predictable, secure foundation. Without baselines, environments drift toward chaos as each administrator applies their own preferences. With them, organizations gain clarity, consistency, and resilience. Baselines may not grab headlines, but they are one of the quietest and most effective defenses an organization can implement, ensuring that every system stands on the same secure footing. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.